Okay, let's pick up where we left off. We're talking about relations, sketch relations and constraints. And I'm just going to do a couple of really quick demos here. If I were going to draw these circles like this, and no way related to this drawing, what I can do is if I click on the one, I hold my control key down and click on this other one, it brings this box up under properties. And you can see there's no existing relations between those two circles, but I can make those equal. And now you can see that they're the same size, and if I go in and dimension them, they will always stay the same size. I can remove that and they're independent again. I could make them concentric, which basically put those on top of each other. And so that's just one example. Another quick example is if I draw two lines. And again, I click on this one line. I hold my control key down to select the other line. And again, I could have 5 lines, so I'm just using 2 here. And it brings up the property manager again. And I can make these horizontal. I can make them, oops. And you'll see what happened is they're over-defined. I try to give them a vertical and a horizontal, which obviously could not exist. We'll try that once more, just so you can see. And again, I could make these lines, we can make them parallel. I can make them equal, which means they would be equal in length and just having to dimension the one. I can make them perpendicular. And so what the sketch relations do is it makes our job easier when we're creating our sketch and our drawing, but it also reduces the amount of dimensions that we actually have to physically place on the sketch. And depending on how complex the sketch gets, it can get pretty busy. And so the sketch relations, or the constraints, whatever you want to call them, make it a lot easier to kind of interpretate the drawing. All right, in the last one, we removed that sketch relation between these two lines, and they were perpendicular. We're going to go ahead and put them back. And so if I click on one line, hold my control key down, and select the other line, we're going to make these perpendicular again. And now if I take this corner and I drag them, I can drag them wherever I want, but those two lines now remain, or this, yeah, both of these lines remain perpendicular to this one, which also makes these parallel as well. So now let's go ahead and put some dimensions on here. And again, SolidWorks makes that easy for us. Up here in the top left corner, we have a smart dimension. And most of the time, I just leave it at that. However, again, depending on how busy the drawing is, I can click this arrow and I can only put horizontal dimensions or vertical dimensions. And again, sometimes we may need to click one of those because it's just the SolidWorks is not picking up exactly what I want to use. So I've got smart dimensions selected, and we'll start over here, and I can do this one of two ways. I can click on this line and I can slide that dimension out. I'm going to hit escape, or I can click on either this point and this point, and that'll do it. Last, I can click on this line and this line, and it gives and it will give me the dimension between those two lines. Now, I can place this anywhere I want. You see though, if I drag this down, oops, that's because it's on the two lines. If I just select that line again, and I try to put that dimension off to the side, but I want to be out here, it's picking up a horizontal dimension here or a vertical dimension here. If that is frustrating me, what I can do is I can bring this out. I can basically do one click on my right mouse button, and what that does is it locks the orientation of that dimension, and now I can slide the actual dimension off to the side. I'm going to hit my left mouse button, and what SolidWorks does is it puts in a dimension that it thinks it is, but it gives us the option now of putting in what we say the dimension is. And so if we look at the book, that dimension is 20 millimeters, and so I'm just going to type in 20, and I'm either going to hit enter on the keyboard or I'm going to click the green check mark, and now that dimension is been set at 20 millimeters. Okay, if you look on page 50, now that we got that first dimension in, you can see here the other dimensions that it wants us to place on the sketch, and so that is what we're going to do now. All right, let's start with this vertical line on the left side of the drawing. I've got Smart Dimensions selected. We're going to click on this line and drag it out, and we're going to put that in as 25 millimeters. And you can see now that it's changing the drawing to fit into the dimensions that we've given it. So let's give it this bottom line here. And we have that at 32 millimeters. We've got a point from here to this point. We'll drag that down, and that is 50 millimeters. All right, if we move over to page 51, it wants us to put in an angular dimension. And so with angular dimensions, we have to be a little careful on where we place the dimension. And so the book is showing that it wants the angle from this line, that internal or included angle, to this line. And so if I click this line and this line, here's the angle that it wants. But if I place that over here, it's going to give me this angle. If I come down here, it's going to give me the included outside angle. And if I come over here, it's going to give me this angle. And again, that is all going to affect it the same way, but it depends on the information that we're given and how we want to place that on there. In our case, we want to put the dimension here, and it's showing that it's 125. So this line still did not come into place where we wanted it, and so what we're going to do is we're going to click on this green check just to accept the dimension we put in there. Click Smart Dimension, or I'm sorry, we don't need Smart Dimension. We're going to click on this line, and we're going to add a relation of horizontal. And now that fixed that line, and it also brought that length to fit that as well. And so now if I click here, all my lines are black, and if I look down here at the bottom, the drawing is fully defined, which is what we want. All right, the last thing we're going to look at this video is what we call Instant 2D. I don't use this very often, but it is available. And so if I click on Instant 2D and I click on this angular dimension, what it does is it puts this little ball here, this little handle. And now if I grab that and I hold it down and I move my mouse, I can move that to whatever angle I want. It doesn't drag it. It doesn't, I mean, it's only lengthening that piece based on the angle that we give it. Everything else is fixed. It's held to the dimensions we gave it. But you can see it adds 2 decimal points to it. And I could fix that over there on the precision on the left. But what I'll use this for sometime is just looking and maybe making adjustments, saying, okay, well, that's what it looks like at a given angle. But if we drag this to the book wants us to drag it to 135, and if this scale here, if we stay within this scale, it makes it a little easier because it goes to a whole number. The other place we can fix it is off to the left. If I drag it out here, it adds that level of precision with the 2 decimal points. So let's go to the scale. We're going to leave this at 135, and we'll click the green check mark. The last thing I'm going to show you in this video is if I click on one of these dimensions, I'm able to change the precision of that. You can see right now it's 2 decimal places. By coming over here, and I could change that to 4 decimal places if I wanted to. So sometimes I will do that, but most of the time, if I'm going to be doing that large scale, then I'm going to go back to my template and change it there so I don't have to change it each time. The other thing is if I go back to this dimension, I double click it, and it brings this box up again, which we use to enter that modified dimension in there. You can see that if I click on this, if I get rid of this for a second, and I go back to where we were, where we had to type in a dimension, and I go in and I start typing the numbers in again. I also have the option of selecting units different than what our template is set at. We're in a metric template right now, but if I wanted to, I could put in inches and mix and match with this. Again, it's not something that you'd probably find yourself doing very often, but we can mix and match if needed. If I don't select a unit and I just put in the number and type enter, then it's going to default to whatever we have the drawing template set at. All right, so that's it for this. We've got one more short video to end this section, and that's going to be extruding this into a solid model.